Okay. All right. Welcome back to Bar to the Bone. To this time, we're going to be doing a little pre-show director chat with Abigail Funk, pronouns they, them, and talking about a Shakespeare contemporary, John Lilly, and the play Gallathea, which and we're going to also explore the meaning of contemporary, because I don't think we've actually discussed what that actually means in a Shakespearean context. So do you want to go ahead and get started with something, or do you want to lead with who was John Lilly?
Well, I'll lead with who was John Lilly,
Okay.
just because he was not someone that I was extremely familiar with before I started working on the play, and I've developed more of an appreciation for his work. John Lilly was an English dramatist. We think he was born somewhere around 1554, 1553-ish in the Kent area, and he died in 1606. So he is very much a Shakespeare contemporary. His star rose and fell as Shakespeare's was rising. And a lot of what he did for English drama really paved the way for the other things that Shakespeare was able to do with his plays when he was able to start writing. John Lilly was in charge of the Blackfriars Theatre for a while, so they really were, they just missed each other over the scope of British drama in the Elizabethan time period.
Like the people that enter in
And John Lilly, what?
like the people that enter college in as freshmen when somebody's already a senior and they go, yeah, I knew them, kind of.
Yeah, that's a great analogy for it. One of the things that John Lilly was really known for is his impact on English drama led to a style that was known as euphuism, euphuism, euphuism.
Okay.
And that was really like the style that he pioneered. And it took London by storm. It was the thing. And, as fads go, they rise and fall and they make way for something new. But his style is a very highly affected one. It's very, elevated language. It's got three primary characteristics, which are there's an infusion of short parallel phrases and sentences. There's the incorporation of fantastic similes taken from natural history and mythology. John Lilly really loved to talk about mythology and draw parallels to mythological figures and cities and imagery. And then the last thing is the frequent use of alliteration. So those three things really are what mark euphuism. And it's, this elevated style of short sentences together and lots of similar sounds all put together with classical imagery and similes and all of these references that he's making. So it is a very sort of elevated and intelligent way of writing. He was educated at Oxford, so that will make sense that it's very educated. He was a very highly educated man, very ambitious man. He spent most of his writing career aiming for a position at court that he never was able to fully get. So unfortunately, he died very bitter, a very bitter man, because he never quite got the Master of Revels position or, the position as court poet that he wanted. And over the course of his lifetime, he saw his work come into fad, become very popular, and then he saw himself replaced by, the next best thing. And I can imagine that didn't sit very well with him. It wouldn't sit very well with anybody, I think.
Yeah. I also, I'm recalling, like, one of the things that they criticized early Shakespeare for was a lot of the same things, a lot of the euphuisms, such as drawing on like historical Greek myths that everybody would know, or really going into the alliteration, really going into the fanciful language rather than, okay, let me tell you the story.
Exactly. So euphuism had really fallen out of style at that point. Shakespeare had started writing in euphuism just because it was the thing when he was learning how to write. But Shakespeare was able to quickly pivot and market his new writing style in a way that got everybody's attention. So it really was one star rose and fell and was replaced with the other. They one right after the other. John Lilly's plays, they're all in prose. Except for The Woman in the Moon, which is his only verse play, but he specialized really in comedies. He didn't write any tragedies. Romance, I mean, there are elements of romance here and there, but he really specialized in the comedies. And his plays are Sappho and Phao, Endymion, The Man in the Moon, Gallathea, which is the one that we're working on at Baltimore Shakespeare Factory, Midas, Mother Bombi, The Woman in the Moon, his only verse play, like I said, Love's Metamorphosis, which is his last pastoral comedy, and then Campaspe, I think, which is a history play starring Alexander the Great and a host of famous philosophers, which many have said is John Lyly's funniest play. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I'm very much looking forward to it. And a lot of his, his plays pull on the mythological figures as well. Endymion, the Man of the Moon, is an old Greek story. King Midas is an old story. The Woman in the Moon, it references Serena, who is the goddess of the moon in mythology. So all of these images are classical things that everyone would have been aware of, which then made it marketable for him to turn it into popular entertainment. I mentioned that he had control of the Blackfriars for a period of time. All of his plays were performed by a company of children. So when they performed privately before Elizabeth, it was children that were putting on these plays, and I'm sure they did a great job. I'm a teacher, so I'm a little biased, but I'm sure the children did a fantastic job. So yeah, that's a little bit about John Lyly.
That sounds completely awesome, actually, to have like that as part of his like the performance record style, especially in front of Elizabeth. I mean, that's just like, okay. Go ahead.
Yes. And he was popular enough that he and his company were invited to perform for her privately. It was very much, she wasn't just, picking these people out of the blue. He had gotten enough attention and gotten enough love from the people that she picked him and said, I want to see your plays in private, which is definitely a status symbol, and definitely made him think that maybe a court position was coming, but it never actually came.
I wonder who actually won the court position instead of him. And I mean, we might know, we might not know, but
we do actually. Let me find that somewhere.
I mean, that's
Edmund Tineley. Edmund Tineley was the one that he was hoping to replace, or it's either Tineley or Tilney, depending on how you spell it.
Right. Yeah.
He had hoped to succeed him as the court post and Master of Revels, but Edmund outlived him, so he wasn't quite able to get there.
He's close.
Beth, I see your question. Was he a forerunner of stand-up? I don't quite know. Stand-up is such like a one-man show kind of vibe, and a lot of his stuff has a whole host of characters and a whole cast of things, but he definitely specialized in comedic plays, so it wouldn't surprise me if he set the foundations that generations and generations later become stand-up.
Yeah, I'm noticing some of the like examples of other contemporaries, George Peele, Thomas Kidd. I mean, yeah, there was definitely like, hi, I'm a playwright thing going on in Elizabethan England. It was just, and I'm also noticing there's definitely like at least 4 spellings of his last name. So it's like, is it Lily or Lally or, oh man, I'm betting that was so much fun. Just being him going, okay, yeah, this is how you this is how you spell it. It's like, okay, how are you get yourself known? Well, you got to make sure everybody's pronouncing your name right.
Right. You got to have a memorable name.
Yeah. So what, I kind of know the backstory about Gallathea. Why it got chosen is because it's, one of the great ideas is like, okay, we're going to do a contemporary. Let's do one that's actually going to coincide with Pride Month and have the theme that's going to actually be promoting, acceptance and love. What do we got about Gallathea what do we want to start with, relating to Pride Month or just why it's such a cool play first?
Well, I could talk about why it's such a cool play forever. So let's start with the other thing, and then I can get on my soapbox.
Let's start with marketing. Okay.
So the reason why Baltimore Shakespeare Factory chose to do Gallathea for June, for Pride Month, is because very few theaters, and we think that no theaters in the area really market a play as being done for Pride Month, explicitly for queer themes to support Pride and all of those movements that we've got. Theaters do plays in June,
Right.
but there hasn't been the conscious choice to say it's June, it's Pride Month, we're going to do a play for Pride Month.
Right.
And so with Gallathea, the thing about Gallathea that makes it so interesting and so perfect for Pride is that it is explicitly a queer romance. Over the course of the play, we have these two female characters who are both dressed as boys, and they both go into the forest, they meet each other, and they fall in love. And of course, there's the dilemma of, oh, he's a boy, he doesn't know that I'm a girl. There's the question of, is he really a boy? Because I'm a little confused and he's making me think that maybe he's actually a girl. But at the end of the play, they are given explicit permission by the goddess of love herself, Venus, that they are allowed to stay together and have their romance. They stand up before their fathers, the men of their city, and the gods themselves, and say, no, this is the person for me. I will love no one else than Gallathea. I will love no one else than Phillida. So they fight for their love in front of everyone, which I think is incredibly powerful. It's a beautiful moment in the play.
Yeah.
And Venus herself says, oh, I like it. I'll let it happen.
I'm gonna have this happen.
Right. And to sort of get in, when Lily was writing it, obviously that was not quite as accepted. So how Lily got around it basically was that he let Venus turn one of them into a boy. So at the end of the play, there would still be a man and a woman in love together. And in his original script, he says, he has Venus say that no one will know until they get to the church door to get officially married. No one will know which one is going to be transformed. So
And
it's a toss-up, really. I cut those lines because what I did for our version is I wanted to make it clear from the get-go that it's not just a story about queer love, lesbian love, gay love. It's
right.
also a trans romance. Gallathea is a trans man. And so when Venus looks at him and says, I'm going to turn one of you into a boy, it's not embracing the heteronormativity of, I have to turn you into a boy so we can have our man and woman together. She's looking Gallathea in the eye and she recognizes who he's meant to be. It's a validating, empowering moment, not one that's enforcing heteronormativity. She looks at him and says, I see that you are meant to be a man. I will turn you into who you're meant to be so that you are happy. Not to satisfy the ideals of the society that doesn't want two girls to be together, but because this is what will make you happy. And that was a pivotal reason why our actress who's playing Venus, Holly Gibbs, why she took the role. Because she messaged me privately. She's like, I don't want to reinforce the patriarchy. I don't like that. And I'm like, I understand you. I hear that. Let me tell you what I want it to be. And so we've been building these beautiful moments of Gallathea's gender experience, gender journey, and
Right.
then, the just pure joy and elation at the end of being seen, validated, recognized, and then transfigured into who he's always supposed to be on the inside.
That is so sweet. I mean, I haven't been at rehearsals or involved or anything, so I'm like, I get so many mysteries that I'm going to get to see when I get to see the show. So that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, Liana, I see your comment in the chat. I'm also non-binary, so that's one of the things that really drew me to directing this play. I felt like I could really give it the love that it deserves to make it more than just,
yeah,
a transformative romance. It's also queer. And the goal I set for myself was that, it's already a gay play. Inherently, it's a gay play. My goal was to make it even more gay. And I did. Because we found the transgender element. We've also added in some male on male same-sex flirting. Diana and her nymphs are present, so there's some sapphic elements as well. There's cross-dressing and gender fluidity, because Cupid is a character in the play and dresses up as a nymph to go cause chaos, but it's not played as a joke. It's not a man in a dress. Cupid is just expressing themselves in nymph's attire, and it's entirely serious. This is how they're going to do their job best. So I definitely pushed the cast to really go for, the
Explore and
full
check it out.
rainbow.
That's going to be fascinating. I see Beth's hand up, and I think Liana, you had your hand up at one point, or were you just stretching?
Nope, I typed it out and Abigail covered it.
Okay, cool. All right. And Beth, go ahead.
Okay. I think that the writer was very, very clever in how he was able to produce and write this play during a time when it was technically a capital crime and punishment, and you would be killed. And I just keep on wondering, perhaps in the afterlife, it would be nice to hear him talk about what he went through to overcome the law with George Carlin and going to the Supreme Court over the F word.
I would love to sit down at that tea table and listen to that discussion. I think that would be quite an interesting conversation to overhear.
Yeah, I can just, I mean, and they wrote so smartly back then. They were well aware of what you could and could not get away with, and what was, what messaging can you do with what you've got. And thank you, John Lilly, for putting this message down on paper, and now we've got it and we can actually explore more of it. And I don't want to say it's our interpretation of it, but it is a little bit, but clarifying what we think his message would have been today, maybe. I think that's really, I'm excited to see what happens with this.
It's a wild ride. There's a lot of fun stuff that happens. I'm not gonna give stuff away, but it definitely, there's more that goes on beyond just the queer romance and the gods having their godly spat.
Yeah,
there's a lot that happens.
There's also
What year
social
was it
comedy.
written in? Oh, what year was it written in?
Gallathea was, pull up my other tab to confirm. Yes, 1588. There we go.
Okay, so technically, it was just right after Lord Burleigh had executed Mary, so there was lots of political intrigue going around anyway. Okay.
Yeah, and there's absolutely none of that in the play. This is not a politically motivated play. It is, it was performed by children. It's, popular entertainment, very lighthearted. There are, some serious elements in the play, because the reason why Gallathea and Phillida have to dress up as boys and go into the forest is because they are in the running to be sacrificed to Neptune. Their city, every 5 years, sacrifices the prettiest and the most chaste of their young ladies to Neptune.
So it's the Hunger Games of the Elizabethan court.
Yeah, except they can't fight back. If they could fight back, it would be the Hunger Games.
And there's some wonderful monologuing that goes on about that sacrifice as well. And spoilers, but there's some great self-empowering monologues that happen because of the sacrifice element.
Because the girls have to weigh for themselves what matters more. They have to, at the beginning of the play, when their dads present them the idea of they're going to run off into the forest and dress up as boys, they have to figure out how that feels, whether it's better to lie and live or die honorably in service to their country. And that carries through as the fathers are also, called before the high priest, and they're told to hand over their daughters, and they're like, oh, what daughters? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have a daughter. I affectionately call that scene the duel of the dads, because they're basically going, I don't have a daughter, but he had a daughter. I don't know what happened, but you should ask him about his daughter. My daughter, I just saw you talking to your daughter the other day. It's very funny, and our actors, Corey and Matthew, do a wonderful job, really getting into it.
There is some social comment. There's not political commentary, but I think there is social commentary as well in this play, because we have the three brothers who go and explore the different professions, learn, I think, okay, I don't know the script that well. I haven't studied, but I do know that they go through some adventures with career choices and how
Yes.
some of them are just a bunch of BS. And it's almost like, okay, yeah, you could be this as long as you're willing to make things up. And I think that's also, that follows along with, yeah, you're gonna choose your career as much as you're gonna choose your gender or your love or something like that. And I think that whole experience is, that's where you get some lowbrow comedy, I think, or is it?
We
Yeah,
get different levels of comedy. I affectionately refer to the three brothers as the hooligans. So when the hooligans show up for the first time, they, have just survived a harrowing experience. They're complaining about it and they make jokes about it, in a very sort of, clowning way. And then as they go through, as our main hooligan goes through, we follow one brother especially over the course of the play. So as Rafe goes through his different, temp jobs, he meets these very intellectual people. And so he has to figure out how he's going to relate to them, how he's going to learn from them. So he starts out very lowbrow and he struggles a lot with the intellectual language. So finding those moments where, is this an actual aha moment? Does he get it? Or is he just doing an impression of the alchemist or an impression of the astronomer and pretending like he gets it? And Alex has been doing a wonderful job with the physical comedy and balancing it with those moments of clarity and, mocking energy. He's a wonderful actor, and they've been doing great work.
yay. So yeah, you're a little bit of fake it till you make it job exploration.
And we've all been there,
I
so
love it.
that's
I love having
extremely relatable.
being called his temp job experience. That's like, I would have said internship, multiple internships, but temp job experience would probably be even better. So, okay. And just to make sure that people know, it starts June 9th, goes through June 25th, which is right near the end of Pride Month. I think the Baltimore Pride Parade is on Saturday, June 24th.
It is indeed.
This is also going to be again at St. Mark's Lutheran Church in the Great Hall. Wonderful little cozy space, and I'm, wonderful acoustics. I love it. And
Yes,
I'll be interested to see, because one of the things that we did in Henry was exploring the space and using as much of it as we can. I am curious to see what you do this time.
It's a very different setup. We've changed the seating arrangements. So it's gonna look very different from how Henry looked. But hopefully it's gonna keep the thing that I've been saying over and over in the rehearsal room. They're sick of hearing it at this point, is that we need to bring the audience with us. When we go into the forest, we need to bring the audience with us. And so the way that we set up the seating, I think, is going to help make the audience feel like they're part of the action as opposed to just sitting and watching.
Right. You're in the space. You're not. So being part of the action versus just watching it, how much fourth wall, how much about COVID distancing, or what are we doing with that? Is it, how much interaction is there going to be?
There's going to be a fair amount of interaction. There's definitely going to be I encourage the actors as much as possible to refer to the audience when they're asking questions. They're really asking the audience and looking for answers. The person who interacts with the audience probably the most is Cupid.
Cupid is great. Okay.
Cupid absolutely causes problems and will get very close to the audience. So keep that in mind. The COVID policies are posted on our website. So make sure that those are reviewed before you show up to the space for the performance. But really the goal is for everybody there to have fun and to really enjoy every moment.
Sweet. And
Beth, I saw your hand a while ago. Did you still have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. It's June the 9th through the 25th.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, are you going to be having a show on the 15th by any chance?
Is that on the weekend?
No.
No, not the
No,
15th.
okay.
It's just Friday, Saturday, Sundays.
Okay, I just wanted to make a small idea. The 25th is a very tacky day in history and a perfect day for cake. So with the last final performance, the cake you could get for the 25th would say June 25th, 1876, Custer wore arrow shirts. That way, adding to the humor of it all.
Entirely
Oh,
possible.
okay, I get it. I get it.
If you went to Towson and ever had one of the professors up there who worked with the Lakota, he always had that bumper sticker up on his wall, and it got me started carrying a cake every June 25th.
Well, I will definitely mention that to our stage manager and see what we can do. Thank you for bringing it up.
Well, it would just add to the humor of your brilliant play.
Absolutely.
Well, we do
Well, I
have
don't know if it's
Cupid.
brilliant.
We
I'm
do
certainly
have
having
Cupid in
fun,
this.
and that's what matters.
We have Cupid. We have Diane's nymphs. We got there's some bows and arrows, and
Oh yes, yes. There's
yeah.
bows. We don't have any arrows, but we definitely have bows.
More than one type of bow, actually. I think because you have, if I'm remembering the script correctly, and I'll let people figure out what that means when they get there.
That's also going to be a
okay,
moment of audience interaction as well. You'll be handed things to hold so that Cupid can interact with them.
Cool. Any last bits from either Beth or Liana before we wrap this up?
I'm trying to get my neighbors all to get interested, and I keep on giving them out all sorts of various informations about when they need to get tickets, that they've got to go. And I'm just hoping that somebody wins very soon, big on the lottery, so that they can give you the donation you need to get a permanent housing so you can reconstruct the stage.
That would be
wonderful.
a cool thing. That would be great.
That would be wonderful. Thank you, Miss Beth. That's wonderful.
Well, the only thing I know that I'm not allowed to do there, so I won't. I will not stitch during a performance, because there's nothing worse than an old hag from the Scottish play stabbing fabric repeatedly while you're trying to do your lines.
Well, it is a very open, creative space. I know there are some people in the cast that do embroidery. So if you want to bring your projects, that's fine.
No,
That's fine.
I'm doing a plimped. You do not want me to be there, because I would use many of Shakespeare's words that he introduced us to.
Yeah, well,
Although
maybe not.
although I will actually say that we have had some new experiences with having people who have varying attention spans. I don't want to actually say neurodivergent, because I'm not sure that that's accurate, but people with varying attention spans bringing what they need to be able to be comfortable and part of the experience. And it's actually been nice to let that happen.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense whatsoever, just to like say, we're glad you're here. You're welcome. You're not interfering. You're just taking care of yourself. So we get it. We do get it.
And also, I wanted to thank you all for when I went to see the performance of Henry VIII, and the little child decided that he wanted to sit at one of your prop tables, and the way you worked around it, because his mother was trying to be as calm as possible, but sometimes you just do not argue with a small child, you work around them.
We actually particularly hoped that people would sit at that table, and we were glad when people did. And if it helped him to focus, that was just another thing that we were just really grateful for. So yeah, June 9th to the 25th. Bring it. One small thing is that the performances are Friday, Saturday are going to be 8 p.m. as always, but Sundays are going to be 2 p.m.
Yay!
Big difference. It's a 2-hour difference, just so that we can have all of the Sundays and have them all happen, and let people go home just a little bit earlier, maybe.
Well, it's safer also, because as you do have the Wrinklies there, it's good to have them drive home when it's still light outside, as opposed to letting them drive home when it's not.
Or be picked up by their son. So Anyway, thank you all. I'm going to let everybody go. Thank you so much, and we will see you at Gallathea.